Good morning, everyone. My name is Hannah Beeler, and I am the social media manager here at COSI. Thank you for joining me today for the 2021 COSI Science Festival. The festival has moved from a 4-day physical festival to an all-digital format May 5th through 8th. On May 8th, we hope you will connect virtually with at-home science activities and share your experience with photos or videos on social media using hashtag COSI SciFest. And of course, we want to give a big shout out to all of our sponsors and partners of the COSI Science Festival, especially our visionary sponsor, Patel. We certainly couldn't do this without them. Want to show your support for COSI? We are nominated once again for USA Today's 10 Best Science Museum. You can vote for COSI by visiting cosi.org/10best, and don't forget, COSI opens to the public on June 3rd. Now it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's event.
Hi, my name is Amy Hiltabidel, and I work in the Technology Transfer Office at NASA's Glenn Research Center located in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm happy to be here with you today. I am going to provide a brief presentation on NASA's spinoffs in communications and medicine. Spinoffs is a term we use to describe technology that was originally developed in support of NASA's missions that has found a new home in industry. Following the brief presentation, my colleague Jeanne King will join me for a discussion on spin-off technologies and where you can find out more. Then Jeanne and I will welcome your questions. Please ask your questions in the comments or use the social media hashtag. Okay, Hannah, let's get started. When you think of the word innovation, what kinds of things do you think of? Perhaps things like the internet, cars, airplanes, antibiotics, and cell phones. What about when you think of the word NASA? Do you think of rockets blasting off into space or fantastically colored images of distant galaxies? NASA's innovations, those amazing technologies that enable rockets and the transmission of images of the planets in our solar systems, have also made a tremendous impact closer to home. Everyone here has benefited from NASA innovation, from quieter aircraft to cleaner water, to enhanced crop yields, to fire suppression systems, to the microchips in the tiny cameras in your cell phones. NASA innovation benefits us all. Arguably, one of the most impactful of NASA's innovations is space communication. From its inception, NASA pioneered space communications, beginning with a passive satellite experiment where large surfaces, such as a balloon, are used to reflect communication signals to a receiver. These experiments went well, and in 1958, NASA launched the first dynamic satellite called Explorer 1. Explorer revolutionized space exploration. For the first time, science data can be transmitted back to Earth. Our understanding of space expanded exponentially, beginning with the exploration of the Van Allen radiation belts. NASA's disruptive work in space communications continued with a partnership with the Canadian Department of Communications to develop the Communications Technology Satellite. Launched in 1976, this satellite enabled for the very first time real-time direct communications to individual homes and communities. Operating at much higher powers and frequency than earlier satellites, the Communications Technology Satellite demonstrated telemedicine to remote areas of Canada and the delivery of educational programming. This crucially important work was acknowledged in 1987 when the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences awarded the Emmy to the Canadian Communications Research Centre and NASA, celebrating the great accomplishments in the field of television broadcasting and its applications. These advances led to many satellites operating in the geosynchronous orbit, which was quickly getting overcrowded. Plus, commercial companies were seeking greater communications capacity to support many services, such as high-speed, high-security financial transactions and wireless mobile networks for consumers. In response, NASA launched its most revolutionary breakthroughs in space communication, the Advanced Communications Technology Satellite. The AX launched in 1993 and is the first all-digital gigabit capacity communication satellite carrying data at standard fiber optic data rates with the same transmission quality. Operating at even higher frequencies, the technologies on board AX enabled the transmission of even more data to even the remotest areas on Earth using small portable antennas. Services such as remote medical imaging diagnostics, global personal communications, and the interconnection of distal supercomputers were demonstrated for the first time. NASA partnered with hundreds of scientists and engineers at universities and corporations to develop practical applications that we take for granted today, such as live video teleconferencing, making and receiving phone calls in our cars, and uninterrupted satellite transmission of live television. NASA continues to make space communications more powerful and even more flexible by introducing a new communications testbed called the Space Communications and Navigation, or SCAN. Launched in 2012 and installed on the International Space Station, the SCAN is an on-orbit, adaptable, software-defined radio facility with corresponding ground and operational systems. Software-defined radio is the next revolution in fast and secure communication. A fully programmable radio that can be remotely reconfigured to change the functionality of radio communications through software in space. Software-defined radio offers a flexible, affordable, adaptable, and powerful way to maintain and expand our current standard of communication. From binge watching Game of Thrones along the beautiful shores of Lake Erie, to rocking out as you drive across the country to visit your Aunt Donna in Kansas, to emergency operations in disaster stricken areas, NASA's advances in communications make our lives better every day. Space related innovations are fairly straightforward spinoffs. After all, it is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. But would you believe that today's method of removing cataracts evolved from propulsion technology? Cataracts are a cloudy or opaque area of the eye's lens causing blurry vision and can sometimes lead to blindness. Earlier methods to remove cataracts involved some gruesome techniques that required large incision, many stitches to keep the lens in place, and a 10-day hospital stay. In the 1970s, a local eye surgeon determined that there had to be a better way. He partnered with the Retina Foundation of Boston and NASA Glenn to apply advanced technology in the fields of fluid mechanics, high-speed rotating equipment, miniature mechanisms, pumps, seals, and bearings to develop the first tiny cutter pump, a device that macerates the cataract through a small incision in the cornea and pumps the liquefied cataract material from the eye. The cutter pump is driven by a tiny turbine and includes pressure regulator to maintain ocular pressures during the procedure. Today's method, called phacoemulsification, is based on the same principles but uses ultrasound to macerate the cataract. When you're not feeling well, you might go see your doctor. He'll take a good look at you, listen to your heart and lungs, peer into your eyes, ears, and nose, and maybe even order blood and urine tests for good measure. But what happens if you fall ill in space? Typically, there are medical doctors available, either on the mission itself or through ground support, to take a look. However, they need a little bit more information in order to assist the unwell astronaut. NASA is actively developing remote monitoring technologies to enable real-time health diagnostics to keep our astronauts in optimum health. For example, NASA Glenn developed a low-power, rugged, implantable biotelemetry system that can be interrogated wirelessly to monitor astronauts while in flight. NASA Glenn's licensee, Endotronics, took this novel system and developed the technology for remotely monitoring patients with heart failure. With this system, patients can spend more time at home doing the things they enjoy. Also, their doctors and caregivers can be alerted of any problems, so the patient can be cared for before requiring an extensive hospital stay. Blood and urine analysis are difficult in a microgravity environment, so having an easy, fast, and accurate health diagnostic that can be conducted using a drop of blood in a simple handheld machine is highly desired. DMI is developing a novel handheld laboratory capable of complete blood analysis in a reusable package. The Our Health system is a universal biomedical laboratory for performing blood and urine analysis in orbit rather than relying on ground-based analysis. The device was evaluated in microgravity environments during parabolic flight. Our Health performed flawlessly and is anticipated for evaluation on the International Space Station. From real-time monitoring of renal function for those on dialysis, to quick, complete blood analysis in emergency settings, to health monitoring of high-performance athletes, the device could potentially improve the quality of life for so many people with chronic illnesses and those needing just to know a little bit more about their bodies. NASA's innovations are everywhere and impact us daily. And the really awesome thing is these folks are continuing to innovate. We are limited only by our imaginations. So just imagine how the innovations being developed today could impact your life tomorrow. Thank you.
Wow, Amy, that was a great presentation. Really good stuff you had there. You know, though, I have some questions. The
Sure.
cataract stuff was pretty gruesome, but at the same time, who knew delicate surgical tools were developed based on propulsion technologies? How does that work, and how is the NASA technology used in that commercial way?
That's a great question, Jeannie. NASA was created in 1958 under the National Aeronautics and Space Act that called for the new agency to disseminate its technology for public benefit. NASA does this in several ways, including a product or process is commercialized as a result of a NASA patent license or waiver, collaborative development via Space Act agreements, small business innovation or small business technology transfer contracts, facility usage agreements, NASA laboratory personnel contributions to the design of commercial product or processes, publicly published data and research findings. A commercial product or process resulted from successful entrepreneurial endeavors by former NASA employees whose technical expertise was developed while employed by NASA. Over the course of its history, NASA has nurtured these kinds of partnerships with the private sector to facilitate the transfer of NASA-developed technologies. The benefits of these partnerships have reached through the economy and around the globe. Something else you may not know is NASA publishes its most compelling partnerships and innovations in a publication called Spinoff. In fact, there are over 1,700 examples of NASA spinoffs published since 1976.
Oh, I love this idea of spinoffs. Where can I find out more about the NASA spinoffs?
Well, it's super easy. All of these stories are published to the website spinoff.nasa.gov, or you can simply search NASA spinoffs.
Sounds good. So tell me specifically, what about Velcro and Tang? Aren't those the most famous NASA spinoffs?
Actually, those were not even invented by NASA, nor did we invent the MRI, smoke detectors, or Teflon. However, NASA has contributed to the development of these awesome technologies and has been a user of these products and technologies. With that said, there are several pretty high-profile NASA spin-offs, including memory foam, infrared thermometers, prepackaged food, handheld vacuums, scratch-resistant lenses, fire-resistant fibers and fabric, and baby formula.
Wow, that's amazing. Based on the information you provided today, it sounds like just about everyone has benefited from NASA technology. From the cameras on our cell phones to nutritional supplements, it's even the fibers and fabrics we wear and use in our homes and vehicles.
That's right, Jeannie.
Oh man. So Aim, what if someone out there in our audience has an entrepreneur spirit and is inspired to take a NASA technology developed and make it into a product? How would they get started?
Again, it's super easy. NASA has worked very hard to make finding our data, information, patents, and software simple. In fact, you only need two websites. NASA's entire patent portfolio and its software catalog can be found at technology.nasa.gov. Here you can browse or search NASA's issued and pending patents available for licensing and available software codes for use in your work. Another great website is NASA's Scientific and Technical Information, which can be found at sti.nasa.gov. It's a great place to browse or search NASA's published information, including technical reports, symposium presentations, and peer-reviewed papers.
Hey, Aim, I love that. I love that thing about easy. Tell me again, what were those websites?
Technology.nasa.gov and sti.nasa.gov.
Thanks, Amy. That's really some great information. Now I think it's time for some of the tougher questions from our audience.
Let's
I'd
do
like
it.
to hear it. Let's see what we have here. As a kid, what did you want to do when you grew up? And how did you begin this career path?
So that's a really good question. Actually, as a kid, I wanted to be a medical doctor, which is, different from what I do currently. And I decided then in probably early high school that a good way to figure out what it is that I wanted to do is to actually shadow people who work in those fields. So I got a candy striping job at the local hospital and met some doctors and started to shadow them. And I realized that I'm not cut out to be a doctor. It's a good thing
Me either.
it's a good thing to realize early, right?
Yeah.
So I talked to my dad a little bit, and he kind of found this program as an apprenticeship program where I get to shadow engineers. And I did that one summer, and I shadowed a civil engineer, a biomedical engineer, chemical, all of them for the whole summer. And I realized that I really like solving tough problems. And so I determined to become an engineer. And I went to school here in Cleveland and studied polymer engineering, and the rest is history. How about you, Jeannie? What did you want to do when you were growing up?
That was kind of tough. I actually liked the medical field as well, but I was good in math and sciences and really felt like engineering was the way to go. So I took a path in that direction, and it's been great ever since. So yeah, it's
That's
all been
awesome.
good.
Good.
So let's see what else we have here. So they seem to love your conversation and your information about spinoffs you can currently tell us about.
Spinoffs in development. So here at Nessa Glenn, I oversee a portfolio of intellectual property and materials and coatings, and I have been working to move a lot of those newer technologies out to the marketplace. Some of those are still in development, but there is this one that's really cool. It's called an aerogel. So if you know what that is, it's a really light, very lightweight substance. It's solid. That is highly insulating and has a lot of great properties. NASA Glenn took that material and made it completely out of polymers or plastics. So it feels like a piece of plastic. However, it performs like a silica aerogel. Really cool stuff. So I'm working with this small company who has taken that technology and is now working with a bunch of other commercial partners to develop the polyamide aerogel into some neat applications like insulation in airplanes. It's in apparel, other kinds of really cool applications. It's something to watch for in the future. There should be some big announcements coming out in this fall.
I love big announcements. How does NASA choose partners for these spinoffs?
So another good question. And so for our licensing partners, we ask them to submit to us a commercialization plan. That's where they would detail how they're going to take our NASA technology and make it into a product and move it out into industry. There's a couple other ways that we work with industry. I mentioned the Small Business Innovative Research Program, and that's also a competitive process where companies can submit their proposals for it's actually in response to a topic that NASA publishes and their plans for developing new technology in support of our missions. So that's another way that we select our spinoffs is from the success of our partners.
That's awesome. Is there something you haven't had a chance to work on yet that you would like to at some point in your career?
Wow.
Yeah.
I've done some pretty cool stuff. I've been in my current position for about 5 years. And before that, I have worked in industry. And I've made some stuff that's actual products that are on the market today, which is really cool. Um, I really enjoy mentoring, and I'd like to do more of that. I like working with some newer employees and interns. I'd like to have more interns. Maybe when we're able to get back into the
Yeah.
office, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I know for me on that, I used to work in the space experiments. So I had a whole tour, but it was with NASA with one of their groups, but that was kind of a little different view of NASA, but really a lot of fun. So that's something that I was able to do before I moved over into this area. What advice do you have for young girls who want to get into a STEM field?
So do it. That's really
Agreed. Agreed. Just do it.
let's do it. Yeah, ask the questions. Talk to people, ask all the questions that you have. Make sure you work hard in your math and your science classes. If you don't understand something, work at it. I would say take the opportunities to go for apprenticeships or internships as you can. When I was, starting out, you know, for some of my early jobs, I went out and I kinda pounded the pavement. I don't think you do that anymore. Yeah, I guess maybe I'm showing my age a little bit.
I think you always need to pound the pavement. It never hurts.
No, I guess not. But, yeah, that's, I went out and I met people. You have to expand on a network. That's another thing that's important. I think that, maybe now folks talk about that a little bit more, but having a network, a support network, so peers and colleagues and others who you can ask questions and you could talk to and have reflections and things. That's all very, very important, especially when you're developing in a new career. But yeah, I think STEM is a great foundation for anything that you might want to do in the future. Having the engineering background allows you to see things differently, to be able to solve difficult problems. Um, Engineers tend to, maybe step back a little bit and think before they
Mhm.
react, which is also a really good skill.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Patience.
patience, right? Yeah. It's helpful in any career field that you go into. Even if you study engineering and you go into law or, even medicine or pharmacy or any of that stuff, it's a great foundation to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah. And I think you touched on something earlier, Amy, where you said that you like mentoring. I think really finding a mentor and someone that you really connect with to ask the questions and to kind of move forward is always a great tool. And if you're young, finding a teacher or maybe a guidance counselor or even a parent, those are all great ways to just ask the questions and start to move forward. So
Yes.
I totally agree with you. Is there a project you've worked on that you are most proud of?
Wow. That's a good question. So I worked on a lot of really cool stuff. Trying to think, maybe most recently, something that I am proud of is it's not really related to any of this, but
Mhm.
I did take a detail to help out
Yeah.
with FEMA.
Mhm.
So there was a call when there was a bunch of hurricanes that hit. Harvey and Maria were the two hurricanes, and a lot of people were devastated during that time. I did volunteer to go and help out, and it was tough for me to leave. My daughter was still quite young, and it's the first time I left her for any extended period of time. I was a wreck on the airplane, and everyone was so kind. But it was a really neat experience working with people and helping them pick up and recover from such a disaster and seeing how another government organization works and how well that worked. It was really cool. How about you, Jeannie?
Gosh, I've done some interesting things. I think really one of the funnest that I've had is working with the experiments and being able to work with the astronauts. I was able to tour some of the other NASA facilities, the astronaut training. So that was really special. I have to admit that was special. Anyway, that's it for our questions. We can always send additional questions that pop up when guests go, and watch the stream over the next couple days.
That's awesome. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much. I'm glad you were here, and I hope you learned something. If you need anything, you can always find us on the web. I give you the websites technology.nasa.gov. You'll be able to find us that way. You can also Google our names wherever you can find us very easily. It's kind of scary, Jeannie, if you have to think about it. But
Listen, we're here to answer questions, so
yes,
by all means.
here to help. Well, super. Well, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great day.
Thanks.